My name is Helen Bradford. I'm 63 years old, a retired librarian, and I live alone in a modest apartment just outside Albany, New York. My husband, Jack, passed away 4 years ago. Since then, I've been rebuilding a quiet life, simple, clean, mine. It was a Tuesday morning when the envelope arrived. Thick paper, cream-colored, with my name written in sharp black ink. Mrs. Helen Bradford. Not Mom, not Mother, just the formal name, as if I were some estranged aunt she barely knew. I recognized the handwriting right away. My daughter Lauren always had the kind of penmanship that looked like it belonged on wedding invitations and legal notices. Precise, beautiful, distant. I should have known better the moment I held it in my hand. There was weight in that paper. Not just physical, but emotional. I ignored my cooling coffee and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No card, no message, no photo of a smiling couple in matching engagement poses. Just a printed invoice. $35,000 for wedding planning and ceremony arrangements. $35,000 for a 3-week honeymoon in Tuscany. Total, $70,000. Payment due in 30 days. And then at the bottom, in her unmistakable handwriting, you should feel lucky I'm letting you contribute at all. After everything you've put this family through, this is the least you can do. I read it again, then again. My brain understood every word, but my heart refused. My only daughter had sent me a bill for a wedding I wasn't even invited to. A honeymoon I hadn't heard about, and she was treating it like some kind of generous opportunity I should be grateful for. The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered against the kitchen floor. Brown liquid spread across the white tile like spilled blood. I didn't move. 27 years of motherhood, and this is what it came down to. Not a phone call, not a conversation, not even the dignity of a request. An invoice. I thought about the last time I'd seen Lauren Christmas dinner 18 months ago. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Her words always seemed to carry judgment, veiled as concern. Her fiancé, Matthew, barely spoke to me. When he did, it was with the polite condescension you reserve for a houseplant in the wrong room. That night, I'd left early, claimed a headache. Lauren didn't even walk me to the door. Now, standing barefoot in a small kitchen with broken ceramic at my feet, I understood something with painful clarity. I wasn't her mother anymore. I was just a wallet she remembered to shake when it suited her. And something inside me shifted. The thing about moments like that, when the truth lands like a stone in your chest, is that they don't come out of nowhere. The signs are always there. You just learn how to ignore them, dress them up as something softer. Lauren wasn't always like this. She used to be the kind of child who would crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, wrapping her tiny arms around my neck like I was her entire world. She used to bring me dandelions from the backyard, always insisting there were sunflowers. She was warm, gentle, curious. But something changed around the time she turned 15. She started coming home with a new vocabulary words like image, reputation, standards. She stopped inviting Rosa over, her best friend since kindergarten, and started spending time with girls whose mothers drove luxury SUVs and wore sunglasses indoors. Rosa's mom worked as a cleaner. That became a problem, apparently. I remember the day Lauren told me, with no emotion at all, that she and Rosa were unfriends anymore. "We're just in different places now," she said, like friendship had an expiration date. I should have said something, should have challenged it. But I didn't want to be the nagging mother who didn't understand how the world works. Then came the scholarships, the internships, the move to New York City. She climbed the ladder quickly, and with every rung I saw her grow more polished and less grounded. Our phone calls became shorter. Our visits became holidays only. And even then, I felt like a guest in her presence, expected to behave, to smile, to keep my stories brief and unmessy. After Jack passed away, She visited me once in the hospital for 22 minutes. She checked her watch 3 times. She brought no flowers. She asked no questions. But I still hoped. That's the cruel thing about being a parent. Even when your child shows you exactly who they've become, you keep seeing the version of them who used to kiss your cheek and tell you they loved you this much with arms wide open. But the envelope on my kitchen table didn't come from that child. It came from the woman who had buried her mother long before I was ever gone. I swept the broken mug into a dustpan and dropped it into the trash, but the bitterness clung to me like the scent of burnt coffee. I sat down at the kitchen table, the invoice still lying there mocking me. For most of my adult life, I'd operated under a simple rule: make things easier for others. Keep the peace. Don't raise your voice. Be useful, but not burdensome. It was how I'd survived marriage, motherhood, and widowhood. Quiet strength, silent sacrifice. But that morning, something cracked. I wasn't angry, not in the traditional sense. It was colder than that, sharper, like glass catching light after being shattered. I looked at the invoice again, and this time I didn't see guilt. I saw leverage. Lauren wanted me to fund a wedding I wasn't even invited to. Fine. She wanted to use my name, my money, my existence, without offering even the dignity of inclusion. Fine. But if I was going to be pulled into her dream wedding, it would be on my terms. I pulled out my laptop and opened a browser. First I searched the name of the wedding planner, printed faintly at the top of the invoice. Christina Doyle. I found her website. Elegant, minimal, expensive. Next, I searched Riverside Manor, Connecticut October wedding, and cross-referenced it with Lauren's social media, which I couldn't access directly, but mutual friends' posts told me more than enough. Then came the resort in Tuscany, Villa Solana, private infinity pool, personal chef, ocean views, over $1,000 a night. By lunchtime, I had a full picture of the fantasy Lauren and Matthew had built on a foundation made of my presumed silence. I poured myself a glass of wine. Not the $5 bottle I usually bought, but the one I'd saved for Jack's retirement party. The one that never happened. I opened it. Then I sat down with a notepad and began making a list. Venues, vendors, contacts. Not out of revenge, out of resolve, out of the sheer need to stand up and say enough. They wanted a silent benefactor. I was going to be a very loud liability. I picked up the phone and dialed the number listed for Christina Doyle events. A woman answered, her voice smooth, professional. Christina Doyle events. How can I help you? I took a breath and said, yes, hello. I'm calling about the Lauren Hastings wedding. This is Helen Bradford, her mother. The next afternoon, I dressed with deliberate care. I chose a navy dress I'd bought years ago for a retirement gala I never attended. It still fit, though a bit looser now. I added a strand of my Mother S pearls and a pair of low heels that had unseen sunlight since Jack S.'s funeral. I wanted to look like a woman who could write a $70,000 check without blinking. Not because I intended to write one, but because appearance, I had learned, buys attention. Christina Doyle's office was on the 5th floor of a sleek building overlooking the Hudson. Glass walls, cream upholstery, and a front desk that smelled faintly of lavender and money. She met me with the warmth of someone who'd mastered the art of charm and stilettos. Mrs. Bradford, it's such a pleasure. Please come in. She offered me coffee in a china cup. I accepted. I didn't want to appear defensive. Let her think I was exactly what she expected, until I wasn't. We are absolutely thrilled to be planning your daughter's wedding, Christina began, glancing down at a leather-bound folder. Lauren has exquisite taste. The venue, the linens, the floral installations, just stunning. Yes, I said mildly. She always had a flair for the dramatic. Christina chuckled politely, not sure if it was a compliment. So, I understand you'll be finalizing payment for several outstanding items. I set down my coffee cup with care. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. She paused, her pen hovering. I received an invoice yesterday. I wasn't aware I was involved in any financial agreement. Oh, she blinked, clearly thrown off script. Lauren said you were eager to contribute, that you felt terrible about missing the ceremony and wanted to make it up to her. I wasn't invited, I said plainly. Silence. She didn't mention that. No, but she did send me a bill for $70,000 with a note that made it sound like I should be grateful to be allowed to pay. Christina looked visibly uncomfortable now. She adjusted a paperclip that didn't need adjusting. I apologize. That's highly irregular. Tell me, Ms. Doyle, I continued. When clients book your services, they sign contracts, don't they? Of course. And who signed the contract for this wedding? Lauren and her fiancé Matthew. But she assured me you were providing payment for several major vendors. I nodded, letting that sink in. So if that money doesn't appear, Christina hesitated, then there may be delays or cancellations. Many of our vendors require final payment in advance. Without that, we can't guarantee anything. I see. I stood, smoothing my dress. When my daughter calls you on, she will please tell her that if she wants to discuss finances, she should call me directly. Not assume, not to invoice. Call. Christina stood too, eyes wide. And Mrs. Bradford, if she doesn't call, then she doesn't get a wedding. I turned and walked out, heels tapping lightly on polished tile, feeling like I just stepped into a version of myself I hadn't seen in decades. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, watching the sun melt into the horizon. The silence felt different now. No longer heavy, but deliberate, like a deep breath after holding one in for too long. I opened my old address book, the one with the frayed edges and coffee stains. Flipping through the pages, I found a name I hadn't said aloud in years. Rosa Bennett. She used to live next door when Lauren was a teenager. Rosa and Lauren had once been inseparable, until Lauren decided that Rosa's family was unrefined enough for the image she wanted to project. Rosa's mother worked 2 jobs. Her father fixed cars. They weren't country club material, but I remembered Rosa differently. She was kind, driven. A girl who brought her own camera to birthday parties and offered to take pictures for free because people should remember happiness. I dialed the number slowly. Her mother answered. Mrs. Bennett, I said, this is Helen Bradford. I was wondering if Rosa might have a moment. Of course, she'd be thrilled. She's running her own photography business now. Weddings mostly. When Rosa's voice came on the line, it was like stepping into the past. Familiar, steady, full of light. Mrs. Bradford, oh my goodness, it's been years. Call me Helen, I smiled. I actually need a favor, and I think you might be uniquely perfect for it. We met the next day at a cafe halfway between our homes. Rosa walked in wearing jeans and a camera slung round her neck. Same warm eyes, same soft vanilla perfume. Over coffee, I told her everything about the invoice, the assumptions, the meeting with the planner. She listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from sympathy to quiet fury. You want me to photograph it, she said finally. Yes, not from inside, from a distance. Just document it. Rosa nodded slowly. You want proof, not just for others, for yourself. Exactly. She looked at me with an intensity that surprised me. Then I'll do it. I'll be there on the 15th, and I'll make sure you see exactly what $70,000 looks like when it's built on entitlement. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. I had an ally, and more than that, I had someone who saw me not as a checkbook or a burden, but as a person worth standing beside. The phone calls began 3 days later. The first was from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from Matthew. "Hi Helen, this is Matthew. We need to talk. There seems to be some confusion regarding the wedding payments. Could you please give us a call back?" He sounded tense, clipped, like someone used to getting results quickly and unaccustomed to silence in return. I didn't call back. That evening, another message arrived. This time, he wasn't so composed. "This is getting ridiculous. Lauren is stressed out of her mind. The wedding is in 2 weeks. We need to sort this out now." Still, I said nothing. No explanation. No apologies. On the 4th day, Lauren finally reached out herself. "Mother," she began. "Always, Mother, never Mom. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it needs to stop. Christina says you're refusing to honor your commitment. This is my wedding we're talking about. My once-in-a-lifetime moment." I listened to her message twice. Her voice was calm on the surface, but underneath I heard it. That subtle panic, the fear of losing control. No mention of the invoice's cruelty. No acknowledgement that I had never agreed to pay. Just the indignation of someone who had built a tower on borrowed bricks and was now surprised to see it wobble. That afternoon, Rosa called to check in. "How are you holding up, Helen?" "Better than I expected," I said. "How's the venue looking?" "I stopped by this morning," she said. "They're still setting up, but I overheard the staff talking. Vendors are asking for advanced payment now. They're nervous." "Good," I said without hesitation. "Let her scramble." "There's more," Rosa added, her tone brightening slightly. "I ran into someone you might remember. Jacqueline Foley used to live a few houses down from you. Her son played soccer with Lauren." "Jacqueline," I said, surprised. "Of course, I remember her. She works for the catering company Lauren hired. When I told her what was going on, she got this look on her face and said, 'Tell Helen we haven't seen a dime. But if she decides not to pay, I'll make sure the kitchen staff knows exactly why there's no dinner.' And then she added, 'After the way your daughter treated my team, I'd cater Helen's birthday for free.'" I laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in weeks. Not because I was vindictive, not because I wanted a scene, but because for once people were beginning to see what I had seen for years. Lauren hadn't just alienated her mother. She'd alienated everyone who tried to treat her like a human being instead of royalty. And the cracks were finally showing. October 15th arrived under a grey, unwelcoming sky. A slow drizzle painted the sidewalks, soaking the corners of everything it touched. From my kitchen window, I watched the rain fall in thin sheets, imagining the chaos unfolding across town. At 6 a.m., Rosa had texted me. "Venue looks chaotic. Vendor trucks already pulling out. Still want me there?" I replied without hesitation. "Yes, document everything." By mid-morning, my phone was vibrating non-stop. 17 missed calls. Some were from Matthew. Some from unknown numbers I assumed were vendors or perhaps guests. I silenced the ringer and made tea. I cleaned the apartment in slow, intentional movements, not out of nervousness, but clarity. If Lauren tried to escalate this, if she attempted to shame or guilt me, I wanted every financial and emotional record in place. Not out of spite, for protection. At 11:30, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw them. Lauren in a rain-soaked coat over pajamas, her hair unkempt for the first time in years. Matthew behind her, stiff jaw clenched. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. "Mother," she began, voice raw from crying. "We need to talk." I looked at her calmly. "You both look upset. Is something wrong?" Her composure broke instantly. The florist left. The caterers demanded $12,000 in cash this morning and walked out. The photographer says, we still owe him $8,000 for the engagement shoot, and he's refusing to shoot the ceremony. My wedding is falling apart. Matthew's voice followed, bitter and sharp. You knew this would happen. You planned it. You're punishing her because you didn't get your invitation. I didn't flinch. I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm just not paying for something I was never included in. The words landed like bricks, and suddenly the blame they'd so confidently thrown my way did unseem to stick as well as it had before. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table, a bowl of warm soup in front of me, the kind I used to make for Jack when the seasons changed. The apartment was quiet, but not lonely. My phone buzzed. A message from Rosa. Wedding officially cancelled. Guests being informed. Caught a full meltdown in the parking lot. Got it all. I smiled, not out of cruelty, but relief. Across town, my daughter was learning what I had long since accepted. When you treat people as tools, they eventually stop working for you. I looked around at my small, clean space, the same one Lauren once called embarrassing, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel ashamed of it. I didn't feel small. I felt solid, rooted, seen. Sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing broken relationships. Sometimes it comes from choosing yourself and letting the silence speak louder than the apology that never came.